What a special moment this is, having the ability to walk up to both of my main project cars, turning the key and they fire up. The M104 Turbo over here definitely needs to be tuned. I am busy sorting out a couple of smaller things so that we can get it on the dyno again, get a fresh tune on it, and this thing should be better than ever. But today is about the Project C400. Boys, it's official. We are adding BoOoST to that thing, and it starts now. So let me fire this thing up for the last time, naturally aspirated, spin it around so that I can work in the shade over there, and then I'll show you what I have in mind. When it comes to adding BoOoST to your vehicle, we have a couple of options. We have the M104 Turbo over there, and maybe even if you have smaller turbos, you can go twin turbo, or you can even go one giant turbo. But I was thinking something a bit different. Let me just make some space over here. Why don't we take this W203 back to its roots and add a supercharger, or maybe two superchargers. Might seem a bit insane, but what's even more insane is, why don't we add a third supercharger? I'm kidding. We are just going to be adding two superchargers to the 4-liter inline 6 powered W203. I have no idea if this will actually work, adding two superchargers to an engine, but I have seen it done before, not exactly in this way, but the principle stays the same. My thought process behind this is, the M271 that the car came with has one supercharger for the 1.8 liter engine. This engine is a 4 liter, so basically double that. So if I add double the amount of superchargers, it has to work, right? I am gonna give it a go. I'll also add that I don't build these cars to make the most amount of power. I'm very happy with a 0.6 bar or like 10 psi we are running in the M104 Turbo, and with this I'll be happy with the same amount of boost level. If we can get anything from like 8 psi to 10 psi, that's gonna change the whole feel of this car. Basically just waking this lump of an engine up. Without further ado, let's get into this. I'm really excited to get started on this. First step is going to be to remove as much as possible to create some space for me to figure out how I'm going to mount these two superchargers, and then we'll build from there. Enjoy the video. Yep, that is the AC compressor that I was still running on the car, because back when I did the engine swap, I didn't want to mess around getting a shorter belt and figuring all that out. So I just ran this basically as an idler pulley to keep tension on the belt. But now with this removed, it seems like we might have enough room for some new activities in this location. I will be using the 3 or 4 mounting points of the AC compressor to get started on the bracket and then build from there. For now, I'll just be using some square tubing that I had laying around to get started on the bracket. I don't think the square tubing will be sturdy enough for all the weight these two puppies have, but I will build something a bit more solid later on, and once I am sure that this whole situation will actually work. Before I make any big decisions or big changes like cutting up the intake, I need to know exactly where the chargers will sit in the engine bay. For now, this is very much just planning and getting my head wrapped around this whole idea. Full days figuring this out later, we have a bracket to finally mount both the superchargers in the car. So let me show you how that looks. Not the prettiest thing, but it'll do the do. So just for reference, there is the mounting points. That one, that one, that one, and that one. So I'm currently just using 3 because I absolutely suck when it comes to measuring stuff. Stick this in there. A good time to point out that I had to work around the oil filter. Once we put the first supercharger in, it's also barely above the oil filter, so we can still remove that from underneath the car if we need to. First supercharger going in. Should just slide in there. There we go. Currently I have a mounting point over here and then over there, but I will like to add another one, but like I said, still the planning phase. Get this tightened down. Yeah, solid-ish. That's almost like 45 degrees, and then to get this one straight again, I just quickly made these 2 tabs. Again, nothing permanent, just figuring this out. So let's slap this on there. Look at that. This might just work, but I have a lot of things to figure out. So I just wanted to get to this point because before I go any further, I need to go find out if I can get a long enough belt. If I can't find a long enough belt, I'm gonna have to make another plan. So before I cut anything up beyond this point, like the intake, once I do that, we can move on. But today is Saturday and I think the places are already closed, so that's about how far we are going to get with this. But things are looking good. This is definitely a lot more work than I first thought, but that's always the case with me. I get into something or I get this idea and then it takes me forever to get it done, or it feels like it. We'll get there eventually. Just to quickly explain how these particular superchargers work for those of you who don't know. So these 2 holes at the back, so that was like a bypass valve to control the boost on the old setup or in the M271 engine. So what I'm going to have to do is connect this one and then bring it up somehow to the throttle body, and that will be the intake side. Moving over to that hole over there, I'm going to have to figure out some kind of collector and then take that into like a 76mm tube or something, because that's where the boost is going to be. Then from there it has to turn. I might go down with it and then into an intercooler. Thinking about doing a water to air intercooler. I think it'll be much more efficient because, as we know, these superchargers do tend to make a lot of heat. So maybe I'll do a front mount intercooler, or maybe I'll get a water to air like inside the car. I don't know, all just ideas. Then about the intake, as you can see over here, I'm definitely gonna have to cut up the old intake. that's about what, 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters. So I'm gonna have to cut the old intake manifold up and then build my own to fit into this tight space. We have a lot of space over here. These 3 runners are gonna be a problem, but I mean, I'll figure it out. How hard can it be? I'm really hoping after all the work I'm gonna be putting into this week's video was nothing compared to what I have to still figure out and do. But if this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I mean, the only option is turbo, yes, but then the intake manifold would be custom. I would have to change that again, so basically double or triple the work. Nonetheless, I'm curious about this. I think this will work. How well it's gonna work, I do not know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like always, I appreciate you guys watching, and then I'll see you in the next one. Peace.